distinguished heads and deputies of the election management bodies of Bhutan, Kazakhstan, Nepal, Mauritius, Namibia, Indonesia, the Russian Federation, Sri Lanka, Tunisia, Uzbekistan, Honorable Election Commissioner Shri Gyanesh Kumar ji, Shri Sukhbir Singh ji Sandhu, diplomatic representatives from various nations, ambassadors, President and CEO of the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, representatives from International IDEA, Secretary General of the Association of World Election Bodies, very warm welcome to this closing session. It has indeed been a pleasure and privilege to host you all here and to go through the motions in last 2 days about the challenges, opportunities which we face, the responsibilities which we have as election management bodies, and to deal with the situation, the issues, and to also deliberate on future of elections. We had a very fruitful first day of the conference, ending at say 8:39 in the night, and every session was intense in its own right. There was a deep dive into aspects of technology, inclusion and accessibility, social media challenges, and capacity building in the conduct of elections. We also had chance to experience the conduct of elections in some countries in 2024 through vibrant presentations. We have collated all those presentations, and a booklet is on your table which reflects what you had to say, and we have collated all that and will come up with a second document which will even include the recommendations. As we turn our focus today to the future of elections, we are not merely engaging in an intellectual exploration, but assuming a collective responsibility to shape the destiny of electoral democracies worldwide. This is no gracious gesture, but an honest duty of all of us. That's our core duty to maintain the fairness, transparency, and accessibility, inclusivity in the elections without inducement. Friends, the future of elections will be shaped by a complex and multifaceted blend of technological advancements, voter engagement, influx of fake narratives, and the balancing of transparency with privacy. Election management bodies globally will need to adapt to these shifts to preserve the integrity of the electoral process. During the last 2 days, we all discussed this, and very distinguished fellow panelists right now on the dais and from the participants made very valuable suggestions. So the moot question is, while we appreciate that the nuances, the challenges and opportunities, the bigger question is to address, are we ready to deal with the challenges? Let us begin by exploring how technology can be a transformative force for elections worldwide. I'll attempt to capture the views raised by all of you, the distinguished fellow panelists, in what I say. Innovations such as mobile devices, artificial intelligence, biometric systems, and remote voting form the foundations of a more inclusive and secure electoral process. By embracing these advancements, we ensure that democracy evolves in a step with technology. We received an understanding of it in yesterday's session with the specific futuristic steps which are being taken by many EMBs, including in particular the Bhutan, to include the authentication, biometric authentication, online voting, and so on and so forth. One of the most promising innovation is biometric authentication, which not only minimizes impersonations and voting multiple times, but also ensures that every vote cast belongs to the rightful owner. We in India also started this exercise of collecting the biometrics of all the voters. The process is on. We look forward to the successes of this, duly balanced with the right of privacy. in rest of the countries, and we stand to learn from them. Equally revolutionary presentation was on remote voting. This technology enables citizens to cast their votes from anywhere, breaking down traditional barriers for marginalized groups like persons with disabilities, defense personnel, citizens residing abroad, and by their inclusion, these elections become far more inclusive. We understand that any mechanism of remote voting must be accompanied by foolproof secrecy and security of voting. We in India also have some homework on this already, but any electoral reform has to be anchored by political consensus. We are awaiting that, but needless to add that every voter must be enabled to cast his or her vote, maybe if he is at a distant place. This distance alone should not be a hindrance and a defranchisation of the voter. And then we discussed in detail the various electronic voting mechanisms that were presented yesterday. India uses electronic voting machines, which is one of the electronic voting mechanism. But abbreviation of both is EVM. It is often confused that EVMs world over are the same as EVM in India. In India, it is the electronic voting machines, whereas the rest of the places have electronic voting mechanisms. Such mechanisms have been instrumental in speeding up the voting process, reduce human errors, and ensure a quicker vote tallying process. The technology of electronic voting mechanisms may, however, differ from country to country and is expected to become even more widespread and sophisticated in times to come. As these technologies evolve, we all discussed a lot about the artificial intelligence. We all agreed that artificial intelligence will play a much critical role. AI can help election management bodies to refine voter rolls, detect irregularities, and manage polling logistics more effectively. It can help in optimizing resource allocation and fostering greater efficiency. However, these advancements come with challenges that demand vigilance, particularly as we strive to balance innovation with inclusivity, facts with fakes. The power of democracy lies in ensuring that no voice is left unheard. Accessibility and inclusivity must remain at the heart of electoral process, irrespective of the tech insertion in election management. We must use the entire technological innovations to ensure that every voter gets into the roll and is taken from roll to poll. Simplifying voter registration, ensuring accessible polling stations, and offering multilingual voter education are essential steps towards empowering marginalized communities. Technology makes these possible. Artificial intelligence can be leveraged to ensure that ballots, voter information, and voting instructions are available in multiple languages, and that voting mechanisms are accessible to all voters. The recent Indian general election of 2024 exemplifies this commitment. The remarkable participation of over 330 million women, the elderly, persons with disabilities, and the third gender stands as a powerful reminder that when systems are inclusive, democracies flourish. We provided during 2024 elections for the first time at pan-India level, voting from the comfort of home to all our citizens who are 85 plus and persons with disabilities. However, the journey towards stronger democracies is not without its challenges. It is in the globally interconnected world, external influences in elections are an emerging threat. Whether through cyber interference or the spread of disinformation, such actions tend to undermine the autonomy of the democratic processes. The future elections will require a comprehensive strategy to protect the democratic process from internal and external actors who may seek to influence the outcomes through various means like social media, manipulation, disinformation, and cyber attacks. These are real serious challenges for all the election management bodies. This is what we deliberated, and had a consensus on. And in my opinion, this is going to be amongst the topmost challenges for future elections and election managers. Almost everyone echoed this experience yesterday. The unchecked use of bots, fake social media content, and AI-generated content during campaigns can distort public opinion and polarize societies further. The Election Commission of India has recently issued advisory in the one of the provincial elections which are going on. We have first time issued advisories to political parties mandating the clear labeling of AI-generated synthetic content on social media. This is a significant step in the direction of protecting democratic discourse. This safeguard can be tried as a global standard to preserve the integrity of election campaigns. If the need be, this is the first step we have taken, that all AI content is marked as synthetically generated. This is an advisory, but this is the first step. If need be, this must assume the legal backing and the force behind it. The rise of cyber attacks targeting electoral systems demands robust defenses, including encryption, intrusion detection systems, and advanced firewalls. Protecting voter data is paramount, not just for privacy, but for maintaining trust in democratic institutions. We almost agreed yesterday, everyone, that maintaining the protecting the databases and our interfaces with public in terms of websites, in terms of our applications. If there is any cyber attack and if there is any malfunction during the live elections, it can have disastrous consequences, and all of us need to be very, very alive to maintain those databases. And we know how we handled it during the elections. We maintained one of the largest databases in the, not in the country, but the world in terms of the number of voters, close to 1,000 million voters spread across 1 million polling stations. So there are intersections and sections in which the entire database functions, and it's a challenge to maintain the security, which somehow we could do, but it's a increasing threat world over. Coming to the social media and digital platforms, we have huge positives by democratizing access to information and providing platforms for free expression, the very core of the democracy. All of us agreed that social media platforms provide tremendous opportunities to all of us to engage with our voters, to do the awareness, and also to spread the real-time messages whenever it is required. It's a direct connect. However, all of us agreed that they have become tools for destroying that very core. The very core of the democracy is the freedom and the free speech. The social media platforms are also built on encouraging the free speech, providing a platform and as an intermediary to provide the platform for a free speech, especially to those who otherwise do not have a voice. There is a platform available to all of them, which is the strength of the social media and which is most welcome. But in the process, misinformation and manipulation is originating inter alia from disinformation, deepfakes, which is spread like wildfire through the social media platforms to influence the voters and other stakeholders. Influencing voters without algorithmic checks, which tend to erode the very essence of the electoral process and their outcomes. I'll deal with the algorithms a little later. The fake narratives, which are often designed or impact stakeholders' confidence and trust in the election process, and they are also timed so. So the very, very core of the freedom of speech for which the social media companies came into being are affecting the very core of the democracy, which allows and permits, enables the free speech. Social media algorithms are designed in a way that repeatedly presents the content aligned with the existing view of the viewer, reinforcing a perspective without exposing the person to the other side of the argument. Every time you open up a post, you keep looking at it. Now the system algorithm will push all the content which is only aligned to that side. So your belief becomes far more stronger and deep-rooted. Algorithms can certainly do that, especially in case of detectable fakes. There are many fakes which are straightway detectable through the algorithms. Let me give an example. There is too much of fake content available on social media, which, say in our case, looks like the fake EVMs. When the dimensions of the machines are known, the algorithms can easily identify that it's a fake machine which is being shown and can label it at least, if not block. So there are specific ways to detect the detectable fakes, especially during the elections. The old media, old posts resurface after 2 years, 3 years, which keep circulating. At least those can be labeled that these are older posts, these have nothing to do with the present live elections. It is not enough to, what is happening in turn, that argument is that since intermediaries have no role, they are not the arbiter of truth, as it is said, right? They are not arbiter of truth, there is a social media platform, but at the same time algorithms must be able to check it. It is not enough to leave it to the fact checkers to detect it. So what is being argued is that the fact checkers will do checking of the fake. It is not the duty of the intermediaries. How does it sound? It sounds like allowing easily detectable fakes to pass through and then leave it to the organizations at the receiving end, like the EMBs, to engage fact checkers and rescue themselves and the electoral process. Business interest appears to be at work here. It is like first spreading the disease and then selling medicines. The casualty is a fair election process and purity of democracy. Let me admit that during our elections, substantial time and energy had to be diverted to arresting the menace and impact of fake content, and that too at the peak of the electoral cycle. The management of elections in such a huge country with diversity, a lot of attention was diverted, had to be diverted to the fake content at the time of the peak of the election activities. You can imagine the risk associated with real-time spread of one-sided fake content, that too at the vital stages of electoral cycle. The entire social media space undoubtedly is polluted. If we have environmental pollution outside, equally serious social media pollutions we have inside. It actually needs anti-pollution measures, something like GPRA, which we have for the pollutions, we must have somewhere. Social media companies need to introspect before it is too late. Let the social media platforms, which have been instrumental in providing critical space for free expression, especially to voices not heard, not be clouded by the shadows of fake, unverified and misleading narratives, disruptive by design. It is in their own interest that fake clutter is detected and blocked before it is too late. It is only by sustaining democracy that freedom of speech is guaranteed. Do not help forces disrupting democracies and thereby freedom of speech, which is basic tenet of intermediaries as well. EMBs must devise and adopt a framework to manage these challenges, and I am happy to announce that after 2 days deliberation, the representatives and EMBs agreed here to have an institutionalized mechanism and to form a working group, which has been accepted just now under the chair of Dr. Rahman in the previous session, the Delhi Declaration, which has a specific aspect to form a group amongst the EMBs on a willing basis to deal with the threats of social media, artificial intelligence and similar cyber security. Voter confidence is actually non-negotiable, and therefore, if there are post-election disputes, it can also erode the trust in the democratic institutions, the point mentioned by our friend in the morning from Indonesia. So there has to be a mechanism to address them in timely, transparent and fair manner, which is critical to preserving democratic legitimacy. A strong judicial oversight is essential, and that legitimate forum must be available for accountability of the electoral process. We have a very strong system of judicial outreach, where Any candidate can go to the higher courts for challenging any outcome or any process. So those mechanisms must stay. Maybe I have spent, friends, an unusual length of time on the connection between technology and future elections. But that is what election managers must contend with and be prepared for. I would also like to mention, not discussed in the session, but as a concluding remark, certainly about some democratic indices which keeps coming in dimes and dozens from various agencies and sources. Measuring democracy is certainly a worthwhile job and has its uses. But those who measure the democratic indices and the parameters they use need to be rational and transparent. There is an opaqueness in the indices which are used. While so many other considerations can be subjective in interpretation, an election is possibly a hard fact on the ground that holds testimony to the quality of election integrity in a country. If you have to, parameters to measure electoral integrity must be transparently based on such hard facts rather than on the views or the anecdotes. There have been examples of ratings of democracy index being based on a few media reports and social media conversations without looking at the hard facts of elections. How much it takes to conduct the elections, how process was fair, how inclusive it was, how many voters, whether it gave chance to all the voters to register, whether it was restrictive for the voters to come to the polling station, all that. But some measures, some indices use those kind of, a few pieces picked up from the reports. If one looks deeper into those indices, it also looks that such reports were also part of the design to give credibility to whatever is being projected. Anyway, such ratings become tools for discrediting elections, and at times these ratings come when the elections are live. So when they say democratic indices you are lower, it looks to the voters and the stakeholders as if the elections are being done in a manner which is leading to the, people do not distinguish between election index and a democratic index. Therefore, maybe it is time to have an election integrity index, either in addition to democratic index or a separate index within democracy index with pre-qualified weightage. Conducting elections is one exercise, democratic indices thereafter in the form of governance is a second aspect which is much wider. Let's not make the life difficult for election management bodies by being insensitive to the credibility of the elections which is happening by the EMBs, which faces so much of challenges, by subsuming the elections into the democratic index. It is also time, perhaps we could not discuss this, for EMBs to devise and demand the transparency in the parameters which are used for indices. Maybe this is one area for deliberations in future. Friends, the success of elections ultimately depend on those who manage them. Capacity building programs for election officials are vital in enhancing their technical, operational, and ethical capabilities. International cooperation plays a pivotal role here. By sharing best practices, accessing technical expertise, and fostering resilience against emerging challenges, EMBs worldwide can uphold the principles of freedom, justice, and equality. That is why our meeting here is so purposeful, and this must continue. ECI is prepared to be in the forefront of this effort, either through the forum of the AWEB or any other forum which any one of the EMB wants to establish or collaborate. The discussion, dialogue must continue because challenges are real. It may not be within the bandwidth of one EMB to handle the might of the forces who are determined to kind of disturb the elections. Examples from various countries, country after country, I don't want to name them, some of them were discussed in last 2 days, are really serious. We are all gathered here united by a shared commitment to strengthening democracy through the continuous advancement of election management. This conference envisions a larger role for collaborative efforts in shaping the future of elections. This is what exactly the Delhi Declaration, which says that we will deal with each other bilaterally, collectively, and make a voice together against these challenges and learn from each other's experiences, which are happening in each of the democracies and EMBs at a very, very contextual stage. I extend my heartfelt gratitudes to all the heads and deputy heads of EMBs, ambassadors, participants and delegates who attended this international conference. Your perspectives have enriched our dialogue and received our collective resolve. Together we can ensure that electoral democracy remains a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. And in every part of the world, irrespective of the dynamics and the unpredictability of the future, let democracies flourish. Let the elections peaceful, fair, inducement-free, transparent, provide the legitimacy to the governments that it deserves, so that they can rule with full confidence that the electoral process was pure, and we must continue to collaborate. With this, I once again thank you all, extend my greetings, and thank you very much.